Hello there, I'm Pezza1992 and this is Black Magic, and this is the start of my new web series called How I Play, and it basically goes into detail about how to play each class in Overwatch, ranging from attack, defense, tank and support, down to each specific character. And to start off with, we're going to start with tanks because that's the class I play the most. And to really start, we should really need to know what a tank does. So by definition, a tank is, well, the biggest heroes in the game. They're the ones with the biggest health pools. They're the ones usually with the lowest damage output. But we're gonna, when we get to specifics of specifics, if I can get the word out, of the heroes, I'll tell you, how their damage works with each one. But yeah, tanks basically in the game, they're used to create space with the enemy. So essentially, they'll be in the front lines of what's happening, and they'll be used to protect the damage from your team. And when they're taking damage, they're also creating space for your attackers to kind of basically get in there and eliminate the enemy team. They do this by using shields with heroes like Reinhardt, Orisa, and barriers with like Zarya. Although this isn't really creating space, this just allows your heroes to get into spaces which they usually couldn't. They can do it by crowd control, like with Roadhog, who's able to pull enemies out of position or pull out of this position enemies to where your team is so they can kill them. After these new updates he can. Before he used to run around and flank and basically be the biggest flanking hero in the game, but we're not going to get into that. And yeah, so that's what a tank should do. The tanks we have in the games, which we can start off with, we have D.Va. This is the one I play the most, and this is a special case because as I make this video, D.Va's going through some changes, which most of you will know, where she has her micro missiles being added. But yeah, basically I'll give you the basis of it now, and then I'm going to go into real depth of each hero in a separate video. But yeah, so we have D.Va, and this is probably the most mobile tank out of all of them, and she's basically used to dive into enemy lines or dive back to your own healers at the moment to basically protect them and take damage off them. But now, with the way she's been redesigned, she'll basically be used to get into the back lines with the dive heroes and then deal damage and protect or take damage away from your attackers. But because of the way the defense matrix is now, it's not really the same as it was before, but we won't go too much into it. Then moving on, we now have Roadhog. He's gone through some changes recently as well. He's got a 50% damage reduction when he uses his take a breather, and he can now walk with his take a breather. So now he doesn't just stand there and act as an ult battery is what we'll use, and we'll go through different terminologies as well as I talk through this. But yeah, basically an ult battery is something that you'll shoot at and you'll charge your ults really quickly, and that's what Roadhog used to be. But now with his 50% damage reduction and the fact he's able to walk and heal, it makes him a lot more tankier than he used to be. And yeah, he's basically used as, usually in your team you'll have a primary tank and a secondary tank, and I'll consider Roadhog to be like the secondary tank, and he'll be used to support the primary tank to kind of pull enemies out of position from behind their lines. So let's just say you're fighting against a Ryan, he'll pull if the Ryan shield drops, he'll pull the Ryan in front of your team, and your team will just pile damage into it, or he'll pull the support out the back, and yeah, basically just along them lines. Anyway, like I said, I'm going to do each one individually. Then we move on to Reinhardt, and he is basically what we like to call the anchor tank. So he'll be the one with the shield that blocks all the damage coming in, and then everyone will kind of anchor to his point and basically fire from behind there into the enemy. And he'll be used to do all the shot calling for the rest of the team. He's the only real melee hero in the game. There is semi melee heroes like Genji, Doomfist as well. He's more melee than he is damage, but he does have a projectile ability, but same as Reinhardt. But yeah, so he's basically the anchor tank, and he'll always be used to create space, and he's good for pushing through things like choke points. And his shield has basically been designed, you'll notice that it fits into certain spaces quite well, and that is what it does. It's basically your team's built around getting through a choke point with a Reinhardt. Obviously you can do it with other heroes, but he's probably one of the best ones to do it. And then moving on, we have Orisa, who is similar to Reinhardt, who's an anchor tank, but she works a bit differently because obviously where Reinhardt can hold his shield up and move and look around, once Orisa gets her shield down, she cannot move it. And this is a problem that she kind of has for herself, but like I said, we'll get individually into this, and I'll do videos with it individually as well. But yeah, same as Reinhardt, you kind of anchor around her. She can be used to pull enemies back into the fight, which is trying to get away. So let's just say a DPS is trying to get to a health patch. You can use her halt ability to bring it back into the fight, and your whole team can just focus them down and kill them. She has a crowd control or crowd control denial ability, which is the I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head, but it's used as when you use it, basically you're immune to all crowd control effects, and you take, I think it's 25% damage reduction. It used to be 50, but I'm pretty sure it's 25. Yeah, and then you have Winston, who is a second dive tank, and if you're doing a dive comp, he will be your primary dive tank because he has the shield, and he's quite a high damage dealing tank. So he's like Diva, where he'll get in the back lines and he'll dive in with your like really maneuverable heroes like Genji, your Tracers, your Doomfist, your Divas. He'll get in there with them. He'll drop his shield down to protect them, and then you'll just literally wipe the enemy team with his damage, because obviously his damage spreads out through his Tesla cannon, and it basically, when you fire this, it latches onto enemies, and then he can kill multiple enemies at once. And he's very good for taking down squishies, and he's very good for taking down healers. So yeah, that's really what Winston does. And then you have Zarya, who I class her as really like the semi-tank, semi-defense hero, but she has the health pool of a tank and she has the protection of a tank, but she kind of deals with damage of an offense hero. And what she does is she basically will be used to provide protection for your flankers and your DPS heroes. When I say DPS, I mean like your, obviously DPS means damage per second, and all heroes deal a certain amount of damage per second, but I'm talking about your highly aggressive DPS heroes, which is like your attackers and your defenders. Like your defenders don't deal as much damage as your attackers, but they still have a higher DPS output than other heroes in the game. But yeah, so she'll project barriers onto your DPS heroes, and then now take damage, and then you'll absorb charge from that, which charges your weapon, and then it makes your damage output higher. Then you'll use that damage to support your DPS heroes and help them take out targets. Like the bigger targets, like once her damage output is quite high, she's quite good at taking down to other tanks. So yeah, that's Zarya, and that's just basically just a basic kind of intro into what tanks do and who the tanks are. So now I'm going to do the kind of things I expect from tanks in a team. So one thing to get good at if you're playing a tank is learn how to shot call, because as a tank, your main role is you're going to be able to see everything that's going on. I've done this in a video before with voice comms, but yeah. So when you shot call, you basically tell your team not how to play the game, but you direct your team with how to play the game. Usually because you're the one with the shield, so you're the one that's going to be initiating the fight. If you're the Winston, you say, I'm going to dive the back line, and I want the Genji, the Tracer, and the Soldier to follow me in, or I want the Soldier to take the high ground, and the Genji and Tracer to follow me in, and I want the Lucio to heal us up, or speed boost us in, then heal us up. And it's just things like that. If you watch some of my comp videos, and more recently when I start recording my platinum videos again, you'll see that voice comms are used quite a lot in that now. Like I've noticed since I've jumped into platinum now that voice comms are a lot higher than they were in gold. They were starting to pick up a bit towards the end, but 9 times out of 10 it's just me talking to Kevin and then giving information to the rest of the team. But recently I've noticed that a lot more people talk, and a lot more people do get salty in this kind of level as well. But we're going to get into that. So yeah, you're expected as a tank, I would expect you to shot call. And I'd expect you to basically give all the information you can to your team. I wouldn't expect you to keep track of ultimates because there's quite a lot going on, but it's not bad if you can do that. I'd expect you to coordinate your ultimates with your team, so I'd expect you to say to your Tracers and if you're Zarya, I'd expect you to say, right, I have Grav, get Diva out of my mech, I'm going to shoot my Grav in, and then you're going to throw your pulse bomb down and just wipe the enemy team. And yeah, that's the type of thing I'd expect them to do. I expect them to initiate pushes, because obviously they're the biggest heroes in the game. They have really high health pools, and they can take quite a lot of a beating before they die. They're not like the squidgies. Like a lot of people I see when they play tanks, they play them very conservatively, and I don't think that's right, because you have, like I said, you have such a high health pool. You're able to take quite a lot of damage before you really go down. So you should be able to, and you have a lot of the tanks have shields as well, and like Diva, she has a defense matrix, even though it's getting changed. And like I said, I'm going to go into that in another video. But like, even though it's getting changed, it still absorbs enough damage for you to kind of push in and get into the enemy lines, and that is what you're meant to do as a tank. You're meant to be the guy who initiates everything, and I've seen it so many times before where you have Reinhardt standing the choke, and I know there's quite a lot of damage coming that way, so you're going to have all the enemy teams coming, but if you push in with your team and get past a choke, once you're in, you can start doing damage yourself, and then if you do get like the first elimination, it usually does kind of swing fights in your favour. It's not always going to cause you to win the fight, but it will improve your chances. I think someone has said before that the chances once you've taken out an enemy have like gone to that 75% chance of you winning the fight. I expect you to make call outs on enemies as well. Tanks are very good at seeing what's going on, and if you see an enemy's low, you can say to your team, oh, this person's low. You can call out where their healers are, because support characters are like priority targets when you want to take them out. They're the first people you want to take out in the fight, so if you call them out and say where they are, your DPS heroes can go track them down and kill them basically. And that's the kind of thing I expect a tank to be able to do. And that's kind of it basically. I'm going to go more into it with each individual hero. I'm going to start with D.Va. I'm going to use PTR D.Va now because I think it's a bit too close to the end to use how I'd used to play D.Va, but luckily PTR D.Va plays quite close to our play. So I'll go into how I won't go into all the callouts and everything like that because I've explained it in this video, but I will go into how I would play her myself and how I'll get into enemy lines and how much damage you can deal over a certain amount of time and all that, and I'll have all video footage of it as well. So hopefully that'll be ready soon off this video. But if you like it, comment, like and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter at Pezzo1992 and Twitch at the same, and follow my Twitch stream, watch my Twitch streams from 8 o'clock till late Friday, 8 o'clock till late Saturday, and any other days I can squeeze it in. And catch you on the next one. See you later. Bye.